everybody, this is Stacy. I am back. I know it's been a really long time since I have made a video, and I have a little show and tell for you today. This is not a mini album. Don't unsubscribe yet though. I do have some mini albums coming, and I have to make them because I was commissioned, but I got kind of burned out doing that stuff around Christmas. You probably thought I was never going to come back. Anyways, and so I started working on these journals. I think in my last video and other videos I've talked about Nik The Booksmith, and she has this course that she is offering to teach how to make these wonderful, beautiful journals. And I love all things paper and mixed media and all of that stuff. And so I decided to go ahead and give it a go at a few journals. And one of the things also was a theme journal. One of the things that she does is she makes journals that are partially based in fact and partially made up story. And she does a little storytelling there. And I really like that. She is very creative and imaginative, and so I thought I would give it a go. So, girl and Nick, if you are watching this, wish me luck, okay? Because I'm sure this is not going to go as well as your videos go. But anyways, so this is my journal, and this, ladies and gentlemen, is the lost journal of Mr. Jules Verne. Jules Verne, as you probably know, was an author. He wrote something like 88 novels in his lifetime. He wrote Around the World in 80 Days. He wrote, which I know you've got to be familiar with the movies, Journey to the Center of the Earth, I can't even think, Mysterious Island, 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, and so on. So this is kind of a little ode to him. So we're kind of a little tiny bit steampunky, but not a lot. I didn't want to overdo it too much. So we've got some layered filigree pieces here, a little compass rose, the little octopus, and let me see, you can kind of see that better. So these are from Butterby Scraps, in case you are wondering. This is a Tim Holtz, and this is also, I believe, from Butterby Scraps. And then we have this nice little curvy spine here that Nick teaches you how to make, and some cheesecloth sticking out. And then we've got, oh, hello, Lillian. That's my dog, Lillian. And then we've got some other filigree pieces here on the spine, and then blank on the back. There is a ribbon closure. Now, as well as writing novels, Jules, when he was a younger man, he wrote plays for the theater, and he absolutely loved the theater. He stayed with that theater until it was completely shut down. And one of the things that he kept from his theater days was the clock, the key from the clock. So he would go in and make sure the clocks were wound so the performances would start on time. And this is the key from that theater in France. So we open this up, and this is a pocket here on the front page. There's a little metal embellishment down here. We did some sewing. They're sewing throughout this. This is a picture of his wife, Honorine, and which was not his first love. His first love actually was, they say it was his cousin Caroline. And that was very tragic because the two of the first ladies that he fell in love with were married off to other men. So he kind of suffered some unrequited love there in his life. So in the front, he's got a picture of his wife, Honorine, and who is stuck by his side, even though there's rumors of infidelity. He keeps a picture of her there from when she was younger. Then he also keeps a drawing of his boat, the Saint Michel. And the Saint Michel was named after his son. His son's name was Michel. And this is a sketch that he did of his boat. Verne absolutely loved the ocean. He loved to travel. He loved the water. And he loved different things like geography. And you'll see that throughout this journal. Anyways, so we've got some more metal here. And this is one of the little Tim Holtz dealies, and it says noted. I thought that was appropriate for a writer. Then we've got some little things from his travel, staying at the Grand Hotel in Monte Carlo. Some more sewing here. And the paper I used throughout this book was Tim Holt's French Industrial. And then we've got some maps. Again, he would go to the library for hours and he would study geography and he would study astronomy and to make sure that his books were accurate. This is, of course, Captain Nemo, 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. This is illustrations from his the original books. There are plenty of coffee dyed papers in here to write on. Here's a little French geography cover book. This magazine pages are from Harper's Magazine, which is dated. He lived in the 1800s. So this magazine is actually dated Harper's 1895. More illustrations from his books, which you can see. He did his homework. I mean, he's got anemones and coral and jellyfish and all kinds of stuff. Things that people had never seen before, which is very cool. Some coffee dyed tracing paper. Here's a picture of Verne in his, I'm not sure if this is his boat, but in a boat. There are quotes also throughout. I took a page, haha, get it, from Nik The Booksmith, and I put some Verne quotes throughout this book. So this one is, of course, for his love of the sea. The sea is everything. It covers 7/10 of the terrestrial globe. Its breath is pure and healthy. It is an immense desert where man is never lonely, for he feels life stirring on all sides. And don't you kind of feel that way when you go to the beach and stuff? You know, you're just in front of a body of water, and it's so relaxing for whatever reason. This would be a cigar label from his trip to America. I'll tell you about that too. He did come to America. He went to New York and visited Niagara Falls, I believe. These are printed on here, some sketches from his sketchbook from when he went. He took a trip when he first married his wife, Honorine, up in, I guess, Norway and Sweden. And he actually missed the birth of his son, Michel. So, and the reason why I'm flipping through this page by page is because I'm going to be putting this up for sale on my Etsy store. Again, this is the other half of that map. More French Industrial. I thought this was pretty cool because you have his traveling and then you writing in the globe and that kind of thing. And then I found, well, I have a tag in this pocket with, of course, the fleur de lis. I had found some of these at a junk shop, these little prong holder dealy things. I don't know what they're called. But I thought it'd be cool to incorporate those in there. And there's another pocket here. This is, what is this? You know what this is. My brain's old, guys. I don't remember stuff. You all, you all know this from being on my channel. So whatever this is, I can't think of it. Anyways, old brain. I got total brain fog. Anyways, I put these prongs in here. You can add extra pages. You can take this off. You move it around. You can do whatever. And another quote, how many things have been denied one day only to become the realities the next? And all of his quotes were, you know, of course, very true. So, and you know, I'll think of this when I get through the end of the book, whatever this is. I crack myself up. Anyways, moving on. More illustrations from his books. More different dyed paper. This is from the Earth to the Moon, I believe. So here's a ticket from someplace that he visited in France, a ticket stub. Another quote, the Earth does not need new continents, but new men. This is so true. And in the 1800s, they were still doing, you know, a little bit of exploration. And so I think that's kind of a nod to that. But this holds true today, I think. Here's a little page with some fleur de lis on it. And this is a picture of Michel, his son. And he had a very, very strained relationship with his son, unfortunately. But some people think that the last couple books from the end of Jules Verne's life, his son actually finished them. So I think the relationship got better towards the end of his life. But we have more paper to write on, more sketching. Just lots and lots of journaling places. And more sewing. This weird stitch. This is like weird. I've been playing a lot with my sewing machine lately, but I like it. More paper from the French Industrial. Of course, the Eiffel Tower. And, oh, I need to edge this. So when Verne, the other thing that Verne kept from the theater before they tore it down was he went in and he got a piece of the wallpaper off the wall. It was there, it had been peeling off, and so he went in and he saved a piece of the wallpaper as well as the key from the clock. He had always had that with him, but another little reminder of his time in the theater. Captain Nemo here, another book illustration. I've got some ledger paper. There's an envelope to tuck things in. La, 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 la. Trying to move quickly. This is an illustration from Voyage to the Center of the Earth. Here is another quote. Whatever one man is capable of imagining, other men will prove themselves capable of realizing. A little bit of sewing here. I liked the idea of highlighting the quotes with some paper in the background and a little bit of sewing, almost like a little collage aspect. And moving along, here's more of the book pages from that Harper's from 1895. And this page in the middle here, this is a very interesting story of a very interesting woman, and she deserves her own found journal as well. This is Nellie Bly. Nellie Bly was 24 years old, and she was probably the world's first investigative journalist. She worked for, make a long story short, she worked for Pulitzer in New York, and she had gone to Pulitzer and said, I want to go around the world in less than 80 days. And so it was this huge to-do because, like I said, this was back in the 1800s. This was 1890 when this happened. Verne was around, he was in his 60s by then. I think he was in his 60s by then. And so Pulitzer said, okay, let's do it. And so these are some, and this was a big, huge deal in newspapers back then. I mean, this is huge. This is what she wore. That's the very small bag that she used to, let me see if you could see this. So here's what she wore. And she took one dress and her coat and a very small bag with some changes of underwears, they said, and she was on her way, and she made it around the world in like 72 days and 6 hours, and it's a fantastic story. Her life story is a fantastic story, the things that she did. And so these are some newspaper clippings some friends in the States had sent to Verne. She actually met Verne on her trip around the world. And he was very impressed by her, and he rooted her on. He hoped that she had made it. And like I said, she did it in 72 days. So anyway, so these are some newspapers that, newspaper clippings that were sent to him by friends in the States. This is a map of her route that she went in. There were songs written about this, game boards made and things, and yeah, very cool. So anyways, moving on. There's more of that wallpaper. Here is an image from 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. You all impressed I could read French, huh? No, had to look this up. Had to look stuff up. I mean, but this you can tell by the picture, but you know, I know not French. I know French fry, that's it. So that's a bad old joke, isn't it? Anyway, so here is some more sewing. Here's a little gear that that we affixed to one of Tim Holtz's pins. Again, you know, this is all of that French Industrial, more sewing. Here's a paper. This was kind of interesting. I dyed this with raspberry tea because raspberry tea is a pinkish color. And so there is a slight hue of, if I had had more, I made it stronger. This would be kind of pinker, but there's a slight hue of pink there. Anyways, more book illustrations of wonderful things. And see, he did his homework because these fish, you know, existed. This is a sunfish. That's a pufferfish. There's a seahorse. The man did his homework for his books, for sure. Music. Here's a little pin down here. Here's a little mermaid and an octopus that I sewed into some coffee dyed tracing paper. La la la. There's another quote. Science, my lad, is made up of mistakes, but they are mistakes which is useful to make because they lead little to little by the truth. So I'm trying to get through this quickly, but I want you to see all of it. There is more sketching. This is from Journey to the Center of the Earth. And music paper, if you've seen some of that. More sewing. Here is a little bit of steampunk. These are some goggles that you would wear on your bicycle or that kind of thing. So in here, they took some of the illustrations from Verne's books, I believe, and they made the stereo. I think they're called stereoscope cards. It's the 1800 version of the Viewmaster. You put the cards in the thing and you look at it and you've got the picture kind of in 3D. They had some of those on record. So what I did was I printed it out and I made one. I put some transparency over that and you can kind of see the details. They were very detailed and fun. This is from, let's see, what does it say? Let's see how good my French is. Voyage around the moon. Around the moon. Check me out. there's that French again. Okay. So, and then this is look, check phases of the moon. I'm good. No. Anyways, phases of the moon. This is a book plate. This is an illustration for one of his books. Okay, I'm back. So this is a ship called the Great Eastern, and the Great Eastern has a great story as well. It's funny, you get sidetracked on all these little other stories, but the Great Eastern was this behemoth of a steamship. It was a steam-powered ship at the time, and it was, long story short, it was this big thing. And it was too costly, and it was plagued with troubles, and it was just too costly to run this thing all the time. However, the reason why you may have heard of this ship is because it helped to laid the cable, the transcontinental cable. Is it transcontinental? I don't know. The cable from Europe to America, so we could talk to people, we could communicate from people. It did that. It was the only ship I think that was big enough at the time to do that. Anyways, so this is the ship that Verne took to America. He's got fond memories of that, so he keeps a picture. And he was very impressed by this ship because, of course, it was like the most modern thing at the time. So he keeps a picture there. La, la. And this is image from Voyage to the Moon. He wrote a couple books about the moon, Around the Moon and Voyage to the Moon. And here's another sketch of his. There is that Harper's Magazine again from 1895. And of course we've got some more ledger paper. Here's another quote. So is man's heart, the desire to perform a work which will endure, which will survive him, is the origin of his superiority over all other living creatures here below. It is this which has established his dominion, and this it is which justifies it over all the world. The sad thing is that back when Verne was writing, and he wrote, if I didn't say this, he wrote like something like 88 novels. He was pumping out 2 novels a year. He wasn't taken as a serious writer. We all think of him as science fiction, but actually he was an adventure writer, and he wasn't taken as a serious writer back then, not like the guys that were around like Hugo and Poe and all those guys back then. Here's a little gear, bottom of the page. Anyway, so he went to his grave thinking that he never really was famous, never really accomplished anything, and that is very sad. So, and then they rediscovered him 150 years later and said, hey, wait a minute. And they also messed up translations of his books too. Anyways, this is from 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. Of course, I printed that on some tissue paper. I really like that effect with that kind of old, the old picture printed on the tissue paper. I think that's pretty cool. And then this is Lillian. That's Lillian, everybody. That's our puppy. Anyways, this is the Great Eastern at the end of its life, when they finally put it out to pasture, so to speak, or they beached it and they were pulling it apart to use it as scrap. So I don't know what she barks at stuff. You know how little dogs are. Anyways, this made him sad, but he kept a picture, a photo of that. And then we go, got more places to write. This is also tissue paper that I dyed with some Tim Holtz ink, and you can kind of see the divers through that, kind of a little oceany effect. But of course, again, 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. That I think is my favorite one, and that's why I think there's so many of those illustrations, so many more of those illustrations in this book. So here is a receipt from the printers. That's on there. He had some things printed. Here's another quote. But to find all at once, right before your eyes, that the impossible has been mysteriously achieved by man himself, this staggers the mind. And I think Mr. Verne would be quite impressed with all the technology. Although I think towards the end of his life, he did repair his relationship with his son. I probably said that already. But also, I think he kind of turned against technology a little bit. The way it was kind of overtaking everything, you know, you can't have it both ways, though. Anyways, and in the very back, in this little pocket, is a letter addressed to J. Verne that was never opened. It's sealed with a little fleur-de-lis wax seal. And this is the very last letter that he got from his cousin Caroline. And he keeps this in the back of his journal, but he's never opened it because of the heartbreak. He's afraid of what's in it. So anyways, that is my journal share for you guys today. I will leave the link to this below. This will be in my Etsy shop if you are interested, if you know anybody that's interested. And yeah, and I promise I'll be making some more mini albums, so stick around. But I also have some more journals coming too. Listen, I like anything that has to do with making stuff out of paper, anything like that. So, you know, just hang in there with me. You don't have to watch all of these if you don't want to. And so anyways, but it's, you know, it's good to say hi to everybody again. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for sticking around and being patient with me. And I hope you guys are all doing well, and you all have a great day today. Thanks. Bye.